Pop culture is more than just entertainment. It's a lens into society, relationships, and human behavior. I'm Grace, and here on the Grace Report, we dive into stories beyond the headlines. Whether it's reality TV drama, celebrity scandals, or royal family intrigue, I'm here to break it all down. What it means, why it matters, and how it reflects the world we live in. Join the conversation, share your take, and let's make sense of the culture shaping our lives one story at a time. Fine. How are you feeling today? Unfortunately, in the chat, while the credits were rolling, I saw from Allie and Stephanie that it was cloudy in their neck of the woods. So sorry to hear that, you guys. What is happening? I thought we were finally on to greener pastures. At least that's how it is over here. We've been getting nothing but sun. I guess we took a little bit too much. We got greedy. Sorry about that. How are y'all doing today? Good morning. We've got Jaleesa, Gail, Allie, Stephanie, Saima, Ramster, Cynthia, Malen, Lynn, Miss E, Shem Jam, Betty LaBelle, Little Miss Fluffy, Ashley, Future MD is in the building as well, inspired by Nikki, Tadisha. So nice to have y'all here. Listen, y'all, there were a couple of stories that I had to add a little bit last minute, just because at first I was like, are those really big stories? But you know what? They are. I think y'all are going to be really interested with some of the teen mom stories that I've got to add into today's episode of the Morning Report. We've already got Jaleesa here asking me if I heard Kail and Becky's podcast. I did. In fact, I listened to it yesterday, and I completely forgot to bring it up in yesterday's Morning Report. But don't worry, we will be discussing it today. And in addition to that, I listened to the latest episode of Caitlyn and Tyler's podcast, Kate and Ty Break It Down. And there's a lot that I really want to discuss. Something that was really interesting was how they issued this sort of like a warning, something like, oh, this was filmed when our feelings were like, very much at like the height. And so we apologize for some of the inflammatory things that we said, but, we're in a different place, blah, blah, blah. So I said, oh, this is going to be extra juicy. So I listened in, and to be honest with you guys, I didn't see anything that we haven't already heard them say with their chests on social media or on Teen Mom Next Chapter. So I don't know why they put out that statement. It really wasn't all that bad compared to what they have already said. But I do have plenty of notes to discuss with you guys, okay? Good morning, Queen Anisha, Ashley, Amanda, Gail, Acacia, and D. Mommy. Lynn, are you in Australia? Yes. This is my first Morning Report live. It is 12:30 p.m., so I am normally sleeping. Thank you so much for joining, Lynn. It is so nice to have you here. We've got so much to discuss, you guys, that I want to jump right in. And I apologize in advance. I don't know what's been happening, but for the past 10 days or so, I have a migraine every single day. And here I've got all these lights in front of me, and I'm struggling a little bit, but let's get the show on the road. It's going to be a good episode, okay? So shout out to my co-reporter who had been asking me earlier about Karen Huger and how she was doing in jail. So for those of you who may not be aware, or just as a reminder, Karen Huger from the Real Housewives of Potomac was sentenced to 1 year in jail and then 1 year suspended as well. And so she was immediately booked into her local Maryland County jail. And we haven't really heard too much about how she's been doing in there because her husband, Raymond Huger, has been keeping her circle extra tight. People like her RHOP co-star Giselle Bryant are not part of her inner jail circle, because Giselle is known for being a blabbermouth and looking for anything going on in anybody else's lives to make a storyline in her own portions or scenes of the show. And Karen and Ray are not going to give that to her. However, there is a source close to her who made it into the inner circle, who is now speaking out under the guise of anonymity. And this source says that Karen is now terrified of being targeted by other inmates. Quote, she's a celebrity, and quite rightly, she'll be singled out as a target. She's also drowning in legal bills. She's having total panic attacks, insomnia, and not eating. Of course, it's very sad to hear how the Grand Dame of Potomac, Karen Huger, is carrying on in jail. I thought she would have been like Jen Shaw. Jen Shaw was thrown in there. What is the LVP, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? tagline that we all know and love. Throw me to the wolves, and I shall return leading the pack. That is what Jen Shah did in her prison, and she's doing hard time. I thought that Karen would be able to do the same over there at the local Maryland County jail, but nope. Apparently she is shivering in her boots. I feel badly for her, but again, I think that the jail time was very much deserved. In fact, she probably should have gotten even more now that she was on her like 4th DUI. I don't know, y'all, maybe y'all feel differently, but that is where I'm at with her. I don't really have too much sympathy. I think that this was long overdue for her. And so I'm happy that now she finally is behind bars, thinking long and hard about what she did. And I don't think that she will get another DUI after this. And if she gets another DUI after this, I low-key want her to get life in prison, because we're not playing anymore with these drunk drivers. They wreak havoc on us. I still have not forgotten that story from a couple of months ago where these people, they were from the NHL. An NHL player was getting ready to go to his wedding, get married, his whole family, everybody was driving to that wedding. What happened? Drunk driver took his life and took several other family members' lives. We've had it with these people. There's no excuse for drunk driving. Ali said, no one said jail was easy. Don't be a criminal then, period. Petty LaBelle says, I mean, jail isn't comfortable, right? It's not supposed to be. J.I. says, I don't feel bad for Karen. Her drunk driving could have killed people. She needs to stay in there to detox as long as possible. I agree. Cam says, I doubt that everyone in there will know who she is, especially with her wig and makeup off. Cam, sit in the corner right now. You are messy. Lynn is in Australia. Thank you so much for confirming. I love my Australia peeps. What is winter like for you guys in Australia? Because to me, from the outside looking in, it always looks like it's just summer. Hey, Luz. Hey, Hold My Foot, Joe. Nice to have y'all here. And welcome to everybody else as well who's just joining us for the morning report. D Mommy says maybe she'll remember her sentence next time she is drunk thinking about getting behind that wheel. Yes, yes, yes. I'm happy that we're all on the same page about this. And it's so unfortunate that at this age, she's in her 60s. Why did it take you getting into your 60s? Why are you still drunk driving into your 60s, Karen? You know, even if you're in your 20s or whatever, I still don't think there's an excuse. But in your 20s, it's before your full brain is developed or whatever. It's a different story than when you're in your 60s. If you've been repeatedly doing this for decades, throw the book at you. Tadisha says, I feel bad for Karen too, but she honestly needed this wake-up call. Exactly. Sorry, Karen. Sorry. We're sad to hear that you're not doing too well behind bars, but like everybody else said, that's the point. Jail is meant to be difficult, to discourage you from doing the things that you do or did to end up there in the first place. I hope that they do not pull her out early due to overcrowding or good behavior or whatever. 4 DUIs deserves for her to be spending a full year in jail. Now, you guys, our next story, speaking of jail. Now, here's someone that shouldn't be in jail. Well, I'm just joking. Maybe he should be. I don't know. It hurts my heart to say it because this is our shared boyfriend now that we're talking about, Luigi. I've got a little bit of an update about Luigi for y'all. And unfortunately, it is not good. They truly want to make an example out of him by seeking the maximum. And do you guys remember this perp walk that they did with him with the mayor behind him and everything? Mind you, the mayor himself is an alleged criminal who's facing his own criminal charges, right? So the higher ups, the powers that be, the elites, the ruling class are not happy that the world is rooting for Luigi. In fact, the world has almost raised $1 million towards Luigi's defense fund for after he allegedly shot the healthcare CEO from a healthcare company that famously has been allowing for their clients to die, basically, right? In the name of profits and in the name of money. What was the slogan? Deny, depose, defend. So Luigi, allegedly, right, because we don't know yet, he's only been accused, he's not been found guilty, but a person decided to take matters into their own hands when it comes to the situation. That person is alleged to be Luigi. And now the Attorney General U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi has just announced that she is seeking the DEATH penalty for him. And I want to know what you guys think about this, okay? So the exact statement reads, and I quote, Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, what murder? An innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. After careful consideration, I have directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case as we carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. This was signed off on April 1st, so just yesterday, but it is not an April Fool's joke. How do y'all feel about this? Because here's the thing, he's accused of pulling the trigger on one person, right? Which is a terrible thing to do nonetheless. However, the charges and just the way that all of this has been handled and publicized, it feels very different from the way that these things typically are handled, right? You know, you see people shoot up grocery stores, cinemas, churches, schools, and they're not exactly treated the same way that this person has been treated. It almost feels as though they are sending a message that certain lives have more value than others. So if you are a CEO, if you are rich, if you are part of, you know, the 1%, then anything that happens to you is 1,000 times worse than what happens to anybody else, and people need to face the maximum. So I don't know. I want to know what you guys say. Again, what happened there is sad. You know, this person had children, just like the victims of the insurance industry, right? Who were having their claims denied consistently had children, right? It's sad. This person had a wife, a family, friends. It's sad. However, it feels like we're being told that a CEO's life is worth more than anybody else's life based off of how the accused in the situation is being treated, right? Lynn says in Australia, they don't do the death penalty stuff. They haven't had it in many, many years. Good morning, Hamlets. Joy says they'll turn him into a martyr and make things worse. I really feel like they wanna give him the maximum, and like that it's fixed no matter how much people rally behind him, how much people raise. It feels like this is something that they want to do to send a message. Lou says death penalty. So again, a CEO's life is more important than all of us. They're creating more Luigis, right? And there are people with even less to lose than Luigi. Luigi came from a family with money. Luigi had looks. Luigi had everything going for him. He was young. There are a lot of people, disgruntled people, who don't have all of that stuff going for them. BR says, free Luigi. They don't even give school pew-pews the DP, right? What kind of message are they sending? Saima says, people who've done worse haven't gotten the penalty. Mind you, the CEO probably, yes, offed more people by denying insurance. And I agree. Why isn't that being talked about? That is why people are rallying behind Luigi. The press tries to make it look like people are just attracted to him or enamored by his looks. Yes, does his face card not decline? I cannot deny that. Right? He's a good looking guy. However, it's the message at the end of the day that a lot of Americans, particularly because you guys are the ones with a messed up healthcare system, ours is free. You know, this is a message that you guys really, truly can relate to. Petty LaBelle says, I just can't ignore how United Healthcare was responsible for my daughter being in the ICU for weeks because they denied the medication she needed. And I'm so sorry to hear that, Petty LaBelle. Wow. Right? So many of you have been touched by this insurance agency or by any insurance agency in regards to your health. And these people kind of telling you that you don't matter, essentially. It's all about profits, extracting as much money as they can from you while giving you as little as possible. Lotus says he needs to be turned into a Catholic saint. Cam says, and it's a first-time offense. There are so many people that should be getting a D penalty, right? best of luck to Luigi. Don't forget, you guys, there is a fundraiser, and it's almost at $1 million towards his defense fund to help him fight these charges. Ramster says, I feel horrible for how he was treated and the pain he's in, but you can't go around deleting people. It should be taken into account, however, why he was in a pain. And I agree. I just wish that they would treat him similarly to other accused shooters who've only shot one person. Steph says his attorney better plead for crime of passion. Right. Hi, Amanda. Right? You guys, keep an eye out on this. Keep an eye out on this. And look, Steph, someone else is saying the same thing. Bunny says Luigi committed a crime of passion. He was pissed as his claims were denied. He was in pain. So again, I think that there's a good defense for him, and he shouldn't be getting this penalty. However, I think that Donald Trump and his cronies want to send a message. They are scared, and they want for you guys, the 99%, to be scared. Right? Hey, Melody, nice to see you. And you know what? It's been a while since I checked on 90 Day Fiance. I'm gonna have to see what's going on. I did see the reunion where that guy who was married to Sophie was yelling at her, Jasmine over her pregnancy and her situation with Gino. It was so weirdly aggressive. You would think he were her ex-husband. It was weird vibes. And I did want to talk about that. So thanks for bringing it up. Mel, thank you so much for joining and becoming a channel member. It is so nice to have you joining the crew. Now, you guys, what do we have to talk about next? We've got the Kail Lowry story. Oh my God. Did you guys listen to the podcast? Before we even get into the podcast, why don't we talk about the fact that a woman on TikTok made a series of videos featuring a lot of receipts to back up her claim that she had some sort of a relationship or an affair with Elijah Scott, who is Kail Lowry's fourth baby daddy. And so after all this news broke, Kail kind of retreated from her podcasts, right? So we talked about how she skipped an episode of Coffee Convo's podcast and just, some other things as well. And so now here she is on the latest episode of that the Karma and Chaos podcast that she runs with Becky. And they said a lot without really saying a lot, right? So at the very beginning, yes, you are, Kristen. Great timing. So at the very beginning of the podcast episode, Becky says, if you guys are expecting us to address the elephant in the room, we won't. And so obviously the elephant in the room is that Elijah was allegedly thotting and bopping on a cruise that Kail paid for him to go to with her own damn money. And so they were trying to skirt around this issue, but they said enough without directly addressing it head on. So I chose this photo of Kail and Becky because I want to remind you about the way that their relationship has always been portrayed to the press. They love to queerbait with their relationship. And we're going to get into that. So basically, when they're talking about this, how things have been for Kail since returning from her vacation, Becky says that she has kind of temporarily, she's been staying with Kail for the past little bit now. And so she's been helping her with the children, which is very interesting, right? Because last we checked, Kail had a live-in fiance, not even boyfriend, but fiance, who goes by the name of Elijah Scott. So why is it that she and he just came back from vacation, recharged and ready to take on things with the children, but she has Becky helping her with the children instead of her fiance, right? And then Becky starts telling these stories about spending all this time with the kids and how the kids have been fighting. Lex and Creed were fighting on who gets to sit with her. It didn't occur to them. And this was the cutest story, that she could sit in the middle so that they could both sit with her. It was too funny. And so she tells a story about how Creed asks her if she has any tattoos on her chest. Becky says, no, I don't have any tattoos on my chest. Why? Creed goes, oh, well, it's because my daddy's got tattoos on his chest. And so Becky goes, do you want me to be your dad, Creed? And Creed says yes. We're back to queer baiting, folks. We're back in action, right? So that was very interesting. And mind you, Becky is not a single woman. Becky is a woman with a wife at home, pregnant with her child. While she's over here at Caitlyn Lowry's house, playing house with Kail, the woman that she has been queer baiting with ever since Kail introduced her to us. It is so fascinating. I'm sorry, Becky, and I'm sorry, Becky's wife, Mrs. Becky. I don't know that I see you guys' situation lasting all that long based on the way that Becky moves and navigates her friendship, quote unquote, friendship with Kail Lowry. So many boundaries being crossed, right? Very interesting. I want to know what y'all have to say about this. I'm going to read some of your comments, but don't forget that we're going to be opening up the phone lines at the end of this episode of the Morning Report, so you guys can call in and share your thoughts as well, okay? And, you know, this photo that I have of Kail and Becky was taken rather recently. This is the first time that they got back together as friends. They decided to monetize it and do it as like, hey, we're seeing each other for the first time live in front of you, our studio audience, sort of a thing, right? And then when Kail was doing various podcast award shows and whatnot, she had Becky with her and they were posing like a full-blown couple. Becky had her hand all up on Kail's hips. They were looking into each other's eyes so lovingly and whatnot. I get the vibe that, you know what? I want to hear what y'all have to say now. Let me drop the line, okay? I get the vibe that Kail and Becky, they're giving me extramarital affair vibes. And we all know that Kail has no problem cheating on people. I don't know about Becky's history, but I know that Kail has no problem cheating on people, right? And now that she's seemingly single, now that she's got Becky in her house helping her with the kids, co-parenting these children, and she's been making all of these flirty comments ever since they launched their podcast together. If she doesn't mind cheating on her own boyfriends and partners, what would she care about, you know, Becky's partner, right? Becky's wife. I don't know, y'all. It is not looking good for this relationship. And I really, really wish that Becky would get it together, stop chasing the fame, stop chasing the validation from Kail, and focus on her wife. And she just got married. She is a newlywed, right? Kristen says, I take it back when I said last week, I don't think he cheated. I do now. I believe it 100% as well. Courtney says, I've noticed Becky has been around a lot and in videos with the kids while Elijah has been MIA. And that's the thing, Court. If Kail were still in a relationship with Elijah and Becky were just coming over because Elijah had something else to do, blah, blah, I think they would have mentioned it. When they mentioned that Becky has been staying the week or multiple days at her home, they would have been like, oh, we just got back from vacay. Elijah had some family thing to do. Elijah had a work thing to do. No, there was no explanation for where Elijah was. All they said was that Becky plopped down her bags and rolled up her sleeves and got to work helping Kail with the children. Very interesting stuff. Hamlet says Kail and him got together by cheating with each other. I really think both of them get off on being with someone else, right? At this point, why don't you just call it an open relationship? Just say that. If you're incapable of being in a but here's the thing with cheaters. An open relationship would mean that they are not crossing any boundaries. They're not hurting anybody. And I think they get off on crossing boundaries, on hurting people. So maybe that's why they don't want an open relationship and they'd rather the heartache, the chaos, the drama that comes with this. Janelle says, if I was Becky's wife, this would be a problem for me. And me too, because what do you mean I'm alone, pregnant? And they live in this big house in the middle of nowhere. You're over there alone, pregnant like that, and your wife is laid up in someone else's house, the house of someone that she enjoys queer baiting with? the house is someone who enjoys flirting with her and making all of these weird comments about their past makeouts and whatnot. That's crazy. Courtney says, no, her saying that to Creed is inappropriate. Creed has a dad, more or less. And exactly, right? I feel like that is something that is going to set Chris off. Mind you, I think I took a screenshot of something that Chris posted because Chris low-key confirmed the rumors too, y'all. He low-key confirmed the rumors. Let me go ahead, airdrop this to myself, and then show it to you guys. What Chris was saying on his Instagram, he was basically saying what's going on in Kail's life is Kail's karma. What exactly is rumored to be going on in Kail's life, you guys? Cheating. An affair. Jaleesa says, Kail, you're doing the same ish Elijah did to you. They're a joke. And Becky blocked me. Blocked by Becky. Jaleesa. Oh my God. So people are telling Becky that the way that she is treating her wife is not okay. And in turn, she is blocking them. Becky, are you really willing to sacrifice your marriage for whatever the hell this is? I need to know what the hell Kail's got going on that gets all of these people obsessed with her. How the hell does she get people hooked on her? That is crazy town. Because when Becky talks about her wife, it sounds like she's madly in love with this woman. But now the way that she behaves in her friendship, for now, with Kail Lowry, it's a little too flirty. It's a little too close. And we have, if you guys have been watching my channel, especially over the past couple of months when they announced the launch of this podcast, then you would have seen some of the photos that I shared of them looking like a full-blown couple. Becky is the flirt. Becky has also said on their show that she loves attention. And I think that at this point, maybe it's not even Kail that she's after. Maybe it's just the attention that comes with being around Kail that she is addicted to and that she is choosing potentially over her wife. It is not a good look, Miss Becky. It really isn't. And I think that you will regret this. Again, not only does she have a wife, but her wife is pregnant with her child. So they did this IVF situation where her wife would be pregnant with her egg. And then unfortunately, Becky suffered a miscarriage and she would have been pregnant with her wife's child. She's not yet ready to try again, but that's something that they've been exploring. But I'm wondering, Hamlet is wondering if Kate is putting out the bat signal for swingers. Is that what's going on here? Is that what's going on? Bunny says, I hate when partners desert pregnant women because they're not getting enough attention, right? It's giving F-boy. Becky. I'm disappointed because one thing I always loved about Becky on that show when she would be featured on Teen Mama alongside Kail is how she always said things like as they were. She called it like she saw it. And it seemed as though that was something that caused a lot of issues with Kail because Kail is someone who needs yes men around her, right? And we even see her continue to do that on this podcast. Anytime Kail is acting a fool, Becky is right there to call her out and say, hey, no, you're the one that was at fault in this situation. And now seeing that she's the one acting a fool, especially when she's got a lot on the line, right? Kail could just kick this Elijah man out, whatever. It's just her boyfriend. But Becky, you're married. This is sad. Your wife is vulnerable. She's pregnant. Anyway, this is Chris seemingly confirming the tea. He posted this message on his Instagram story just yesterday. He said, the best revenge is none. Time exposes, karma corrects, and God humbles. So it looks as though Chris is saying time exposes that this relationship is not the way it's been portrayed online. Karma corrects because Kail has been known to be quite the cheater, a career cheater, and God humbles. Maybe she's being humbled because she's over here talking about this man like he is the second coming of Christ. Meanwhile, he's a thought. Very, very sad stuff. I'm still extremely disappointed that not only are her children going through yet another breakup with her, but now she's brought 3 new children into this cycle because Lord knows she's going to be going through a million other breakups because she doesn't learn her lesson. Now she's brought 3 new children into this. And one thing that was so sad to me in an episode of Baby Mama's No Drama podcast was when Kail and V were talking about how Joe pulled Elijah aside. He invited Elijah to some kind of boys thing that he was doing, and he pulled Elijah aside at a barbecue and said, Elijah, are you really in this, like, for real, for real? You are not you're not going to play any games. Kail has children, one of whom is my child. And he used to have a stepfather that he loved so much, and he really truly saw as a second father. And when that relationship and when that marriage broke up, he was devastated, and he still is traumatized to this day. Not only that, but he has seen his mother have several other live-in boyfriends and girlfriends. He's been introduced to so many people, and I am tired on his behalf. Are you here for real? You're not going anywhere. You're not going to play any of these stupid games. You're a grown man accepting responsibility for this woman's 4 children. And Elijah looked that man in the eye and said, yup, I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this for real. That is like sociopathic behavior. It's sad enough to cheat on a single woman, right? But when you you cheat on her children too, and you bring new children, how old are your children with her, Elijah? Like a year old collectively, and they've already lost their stable home because you're a hoe. That's crazy. That's so inexcusable. Hey, Deja, and good morning to your daughter, M. That is so sweet. Guys, I'm still so, I can't say shocked because Kail didn't know him. And this is the thing about Kail. Kail raw dogs everybody, and she doesn't even know these people. This guy, she said that she got pregnant on the first time they hooked up. So you raw dogged this man? You let this man shoot up your club, and you didn't even know if he's mentally stable? You don't even know if he's got STDs? You don't even know what his character is like? You've never actually seen him through any kind of like difficult times or whatever, or like gone on a date with this man? I don't think they had even been on a date. She was talking on this podcast. She was talking on Coffee Combos about this, how Elijah took her on her first real date, like after, when she was pregnant and stuff. I said, you had 4 children, you've been engaged, and you mean to tell me that this like 24-year-old that knocked you up on the first night eventually took you out on your first real date? She's got to be lying. Please tell me she's lying, because that is scary. Do better. Truly do better. Oh, Lord, some really, really, really sad stuff. Stephanie would have been squaring up with Becky. Honestly, me too. Me too, because what do you mean? What do you mean I'm home alone, knocked up, and you're at this girl's house flirting online? That's crazy. Lisa says, Kail better figure out how to raise the 7 kids on her own. She got on her back over and over to create them. Now it's too much to raise them. Get a grip. 7 children, guys. That is so. And how old is she? What am I? I don't know why in my head I have it like fixed that I'm 32. I'm not. I'm 31. And she's like 2 years older. She's 32. 7 children, 4 baby daddies. Like, she's almost like reminding me of that girl. And she's lucky she's got the MTV and the podcast money, because she would have been like that girl. Are you guys on the Clock app? Because on the Clock app, there's this girl, and she's 26 with 6 kids. And it's this huge scandal right now. And I agree, BR. She's trying to make Elijah jealous. But I think Elijah knows that, I don't know, like, I don't think that Kail wants romantic relationships with women. I think she likes having fun with women and like using women to get buzz. But when it comes down to it and really settling down, she seems to be more attracted towards men. And I think that that's something that she has said on her podcast. She said as much. I know there's another podcast that I listened to, Nicole Byer. So she considers herself to be open. However, she's more so interested in romantic relationships with men. And I do have a friend like that as well. And so I really feel like Kail falls into this category. And so Elijah's probably thinking, listen, I don't think he's falling for it. He might still be hitting up the girl from the TikTok. Courtney says, I think Becky is using her. Kail has a horrible radar for people, screws over good ones, keeps the bad ones. Yup, I agree. I think that Becky is just using her too. It's weird that y'all have a fallout from your relationship. And then the first time that you just actually hang out and see each other is here for content. You decide, oh, we're going to monetize our friendship getting back together. So let's do a live show. Let's feature us seeing each other for the first time after this very serious fallout on stage. Let's do a podcast about it, right? And now Becky is trying to revive her old podcast For the Haters through Kail's podcast network as well. And I'm not saying this to be shady. I'm just saying, however, that podcast and their friendship podcast, Karma and Chaos, they're flopping. They're not the success that Baby Mama's No Drama was. And that's why, and I did a video about this about a month or two ago. They go on that podcast and they beg people to listen. They're saying, guys, our numbers are not where they should be. Listen, please, 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 please listen, share our podcast. Millie says, I think Becky knows how to get her bread buttered, right? And she has been talking about how she hopes that she will be able to leave her full-time job in order to live off of the podcast full time. She said, Lord, I see what you've done for others. I want that for me. When she saw how much money V made on the Baby Mamas. But the Baby Mamas was a very, very, very unique podcast concept. Hi, Misha. And I agree with you, Lynn. I agree with you, Maddie. Those poor children, indeed. It's sad. 7 children, you guys. 7 children. Yikes. Courtney's wondering if Elijah is going to go for primary custody of the babies. He was their main caretaker. Listen, maybe. I think he wanted some child support out of her. He saw this rich woman with low self-esteem, and he knew he could knock her up easily because, I'm sorry, look at the track record. Potentially get some child support out of it. Y'all see, on Basketball Wives and this and that, the Jersey Chasers and stuff, right? Like there are people, they see that you've got money and they might try to attach themselves to you either through marriage or either through children. And y'all, it was always really odd to me, the stories that she would tell about this man pushing her for marriage, almost sort of pressuring her for marriage and her feeling uncomfortable with it. Money, he might be a gold digger. I think he is. What sensible 24-year-old involves themselves in this kind of situation, much less produces 3 kids like this? Granted, it was 2 pregnancies, right? But gets to popping out babies immediately too. Red flag. Good morning, Alyssa. Nice to see you. Lynn says, Kail has more baby daddies than I have kids. Girl, me too. Me too. Janelle, oh, how jealous am I that you are in sunny Florida. Nice to see you. Oh my God, Florida, the weather there is absolutely stunning. I've been one time, I don't know where I was. I think I was in Orlando and the weather was just glorious. I am so jealous. You guys, watch this space. I will be dropping in a call-in link again at the end of this morning report if you guys want to call in to share your thoughts or opinions about any of today's stories. All right. Next, why don't we get into Wendy Williams? Y'all know that Wendy Williams has been wrapped up in a conservatorship for the past year and a bit. I want to say 2 years even. And she is very close to getting out finally. And there was something really beautiful that happened the other day. A lot of her fans in New York gathered together to protest outside of that living facility that she has been forced to live in. Mind you, it's very weird that she's still there because recently an announcement was made saying that she had moved out and was able to live like independently in a different place as she fights to get her conservatorship overturned. Well, I got some photos, I've got some videos that I want to share with you guys of Wendy looking down at all of her supporters, just being so happy and elated that these people really do care for her and are here trying to support her, lift her spirits, and raise awareness about this predatory conservatorship that she's trapped in. One of the people there was actually Suzanne. Do y'all remember Suzanne, who was there to hype up the crowd, have some banter with Wendy? Unfortunately, Nortman was not there. I imagine that he's got another job and probably wasn't able to get out because I loved his banter with Wendy as well, but we haven't seen him there. Take a look and we'll talk about it on the flip side, okay?
Free Wendy! Free Wendy! Free Wendy! Here you are. I'm right here. Your girl's right here.
Well, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. You know, I'm feeling very good.
Oh, it's very important for me to be here for Wendy. I've been speaking to her every day. She's in a really terrifying situation, this guardianship, and she's in a memory care unit, which is for people that are incapacitated, and she's not incapacitated. She called me this morning. She sounds great. I have not seen her yet, so I thought I'd come out and get to wave to her up in her room.
I've been a fan of Wendy's for over 20 plus years, since radio, television, you know, and Wendy is just a great person. She's very brilliant. So to see her up there, right, her freedom is gone. You know, that's why we say free Wendy. To see that her freedom is gone, it's just not right. This is a very scary thing. This is very deep and dark, and I don't know anything about it. All I wanted to do was, as a fan, is come to support her.
Free Wendy! Free Wendy! How you doing? How you doing? We love you! Yes! Yes!
I feel great. I feel a natural high just seeing her, but I want her out of there. I feel like, you know, it's a beautiful building. It should be residential, not a jail. It's really a jail. That's crazy.
And if you could tell Wendy anything right now, this moment.
Oh, I love you, Wendy. We all love you. We miss you so much. We were wondering where you were. Now we know. So we here. Bust you out. We busting you out, girl.
Sign the petition to free Wendy! Usually these are called conspiracy theories, right? Or just rush on the table. Icons just disappear, right? It's all a conspiracy, right? This is happening right in front of our face, yo. And thankfully she's vocal about it. And then look at the power that she has of having media with no access, and she still gets a way to get access because she's letting it be known, I'm not bugging out. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not crazy. This is really happening, and it's serious.
I had to turn off the lights because I have a migraine. How exciting is that to see all the people rallying together, raising awareness, and letting Wendy know that they have not forgotten her at all. I thought it was super duper special, and I'm happy that she was able to witness that. I'm happy that people were there, you know, from her past in media as well, including Suzanne. So thank God that, you know, people are there to boost her morale. But still, I'm very surprised and confused about the messaging because it was shown as though she had been moved out of that facility. In fact, there have been a billionaire, a former actor who got rich off of Bitcoin, who offered to have Wendy move into one of his mansions that has, you know, staff and everything to take care of her. So for those of you wondering what Wendy is looking forward to, I just want to let y'all know she is in very high spirits right now. She is awaiting a jury trial to get herself out of that prison, the luxury prison. And she says that when she gets out, and here's the thing, Wendy is a lover girl to her core, okay? Because unfortunately, a lot of people could say that love kind of got her here, right? Her ex-husband did her very, very dirty. It led to a mental breakdown. It led to an intense relapse. But she says that when she gets out of here, she can't wait to fall in love. This is something that she told People magazine in an exclusive interview. And her niece added that Wendy would have traded everything that she has to be able to have a strong, loving household and loving husband. And again, it is devastating that a man that she loved that much, listen, she let that man cheat in peace. The only rule he had was to not have an outside baby, and he broke that damn rule, and it broke Wendy in turn. Can I ask y'all, isn't this similar to Paula Patton and Robin Thicke's arrangement? Like, it was kind of like this open relationship situation, and it was one damn rule, which was do not embarrass me, do not let it go public. And this man couldn't even do that, right? He messed up that arrangement. He kept begging for her back after that. I will say he produced one of my favorite songs, Get Her Back, from that scandal. But it was devastating to Paula, and she was never able to take him back again. So in addition to looking forward to falling in love, Wendy Williams is also looking forward to traveling, y'all. She says that when she gets out of this situation, I'm staying in New York where I'm comfortable, but I will be traveling to Paris. Hey, Wendy, come hit me up when you come to Paris, Miss Thang. The food is good. Is it ever? She also says, I'm gorgeous. I'm successful at what I've done. I'm successful so far. What's going on in my life, despite what you might think? Everything isn't peaches and cream, but there's some roses over here, darling. So now in regards to the guardianship ending, she says that that is long overdue. It will 1000% happen. And she's very much looking forward to, facing the jury for her day in court. However, her guardian, oh Lord, her sneaky guardian is claiming that Wendy has declined to participate in additional medical testing that she has ordered for her. But here's the thing. Wendy already passed cognitive testing done at a neutral facility, and the guardian wants all of that to be discounted, and the guardian wants for Wendy to be evaluated by doctors that she's chosen. And obviously the doctors that she's chosen are going to say that Wendy is incapacitated, right? Because it's in her best interest. Once again, shout out to you, Steph, or was it Allie? Or was it Jess? I think it was Allie. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm mixing you three up. Shout out to those of you who told me to watch that movie. It's not a documentary, but it feels like one on Wendy's life. Shout out to those of you who told me to watch I Care a Lot on Netflix, because to me, like it really explained and really put into context what is going on here, or seemingly going on here, with Wendy's situation. Now, you guys, I am going to do a little bit of a water break. I'm running low here. And on the flip side, we're going to cover the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion part 1. And then we're going to get into the podcast episode that Caitlyn and Tyler put out there that they have preemptively apologized for. There was a lot of very interesting information, a lot of very scandalous information in that podcast episode that I want to discuss with you guys on the flip side. Okay. Take a look at these words from some of our sponsors. On the flip side, we've got more great content for you. Don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying today's morning report, and I'll see you soon. The Morning Report is brought to you by Philo. Watch your favorite shows and movies from over 70 different channels, including MTV, TLC, WeTV, and more for only $28 a month. Get a free trial today by clicking the link in the description box of this video to get your free trial up and running. Are you looking for the perfect skincare products for women over 30? Look no further than RHOBH. RHOBH is a skincare brand born from love and made for parents. Their flagship product, the Resilience Cream, delivers clinically proven age prevention benefits such as average 14% wrinkle reduction after 4 weeks of use. Click the link below and receive 30% off your first purchase today. Are back. All right, y'all, let's get into the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I watched part 1 of their reunion yesterday, and I think a lot of you guys did too, because we have been talking about them for a very long time here on the Morning Report. And so I am looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say about part 1. Okay, so let's see what was going on there. First of all, I have to say that it was rather crazy how Garcelle wanted for the girls to take a group photo for the first time in a very long time at the end of this reunion, only to be the one who wound up walking away. And so, per usual, for the 3rd time in a row, they did not get a full cast group photo. I did feel bad for her during this episode. It felt as though she was ambushed. I think there were a lot of people who did a lot worse things than she did, who managed to escape by in part 1. But she held her own nonetheless. I was disappointed that her bestie Sutton wasn't there to back her up in a couple of these situations, but it is what it is. there was something that was kind of crazy, which was PK's statement to not Garcelle, but Dorit. So Dorit has been painting a certain image of PK throughout the season of the show. She's been saying that he's an alcoholic, he's a bad dad, he speaks to her very poorly and whatnot. And PK decided to clap back, and Dorit and the rest of the girls were stunned by this because it was a very, very scathing statement that he put out about her behavior on the show. He said, and I quote, "I was invited to be part of the reunion, but declined because I don't believe engaging with Dorit in this forum would be constructive. Dorit has made several mischaracterizations about me, but the one I must address is the claim that I am a bad father. That statement is both heartbreaking and false. It is deeply hurtful to me and, more importantly, to our children, who, despite Dorit's assertion, will inevitably see and hear all of this at a time not of our choosing. Those closest to us know the truth. Many have wanted to speak out, but I have asked them not to because the truth should never need a champion. I refuse to stoke a fire I did not ignite. The Dorit I married would never have allowed this, much less caused this. Ouch! That woman embodied kindness, integrity, and grace. I can only hope this version of Dorit finds her way back to the person she once was." PK. He basically says he does not know this heifer. He married a nice lady, a lady with integrity, a kind lady with grace. And this one right here, this is a demon. Why would she do this to me? Why would she do this to our children? Listen, I gotta say, I can't blame him. I can't blame him, right? Based off of the way that Dorit portrayed him on this season of the show, I understand why he released such a scathing statement. And it's ironic that she said that the problem is that he is a drunk, an alcoholic, but he says, you know, the problem is he sobered up and he saw what type of woman she really was. Like, these are two completely opposing viewpoints, and I find that to be rather interesting. I think the comments about him being a bad father are very harsh, but at the end of the day, Dorit has been saying for a couple of seasons now that this man, he jets off to London to do whatever it is he does in London and doesn't really reach out to her or the children for weeks, if not months at a time. Is that pizza party behavior? Is that good father behavior? I don't know. You tell me. Everybody's standards of what makes someone a deadbeat or what makes someone a good parent is different, right? And so when it comes to Dorit's standard, he's not meeting it. He's only meeting the standard to be a bad parent, right? But I think that nonetheless, it is a very harsh thing to put out there in the public sphere of television about your children's father. And so I understand why he is rather upset about it. That statement was harsh, you guys, really, really harsh. Yes, Kelly, we are live, Miss Thang. Lou says, no one cares, PK. Damn. Ramster, no, I haven't. Maybe I should try it because I am dying today. I am dying. I will try it. I actually do have essential oils and the vaporizer thingy. So I'll try it out and see how that goes. There was something very interesting I found, which was when there was a showdown between Dorit and Kail. And Dorit was upset with Kail because Kail had texted Dorit's estranged husband, PK, about the separation and not Dorit. She didn't text Dorit until Erica told her to. And I thought that was a very valid criticism. I'd be pissed off if a girlfriend did that to me. And instead of accepting any kind of accountability, Kail put up this huge smoke screen. Are these called flying monkeys, you guys? When you're trying to like address a specific thing with a person and the person knows that they were wrong and they're guilty. And instead of addressing that, they throw out all these random things. So for example, Kail just said, oh, like, you know, Dorit, like, I didn't like the way that you behaved. You were so aggressive this season, this, that, and the other. You know, she was just distracting the point. And Dorit really stayed on her and said, okay, but what does that have to do with the fact that you texted my husband about our separation and you didn't text me until somebody else told you to? Like, that's so inappropriate as a girlfriend. And then there was a moment where Kail refers to Sutton and Garcelle as mean girls together, which I thought was rich coming from her, you know, and just based off the things that she and her clique of girls have done over the seasons. I think she wanted to transfer that title to somebody else. And that is a title that she and her crew have had for a very long time, the Mean Girls of Beverly Hills. The Mean Girls of Beverly Hills are Kyle, Erica, Dorit, and the fourth member was Lisa Rinna before the fans ran her off the show. Allie says, you get what you pay for. Maybe Dorit is PK's karma. Maybe. Didn't he leave his first family high and dry? Lou says, I haven't watched one episode this season. I guess I don't care. This season wasn't like hugely like amazing or anything like that, but it was actually like a pretty like easy season to get through, I will say, because sometimes in the past they have gotten so mean, so ugly. And again, it's ironic that Kyle is calling anybody a mean girl, because she and her friends have been so mean, so cruel to people that it had been difficult to watch the show for a couple of seasons. Kelly says they need to cancel it, the show for good. No, not yet. I'm still loving it. Not yet. Thank you for the tip. I will try this out as well, Steph. Thank you. Ali says that Kyle is the queen of deflection, and I agree. And it's crazy. Like, she gets away with this so often. So anytime someone manages to stop her in her tracks, continue to ask the same question so that she is forced to take some kind of accountability, I love it. And, you know, when Dorit asked her for the millionth time, she just sat there with her typical shocked Pikachu face. Hey, oh my God, not that nonsense. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Bliss says, I feel bad for Kail's kids. It's a revolving door. I agree. It's very, 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 very sad. And I still do not understand why she felt the need to pop out kids with this guy she didn't know, why she was raw dogging a stranger. You know, they had to force a relationship to work because at this point they had a kid together, right? Instead of dating, checking out the person, seeing if you're compatible. Hey, River, thanks for joining us from work. So nice to have you here. Lou says, Kyle calling someone a mean girl. This is why I don't watch, right? It is just so rich coming from her. Kelly says, Flying Monkey is someone who defends. Oh, okay, thank you. Because I thought that all these distractions that she threw out were flying monkeys. Okay, it's nice to know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then there's something that Dorit said about PK, because PK, he had been saying when he was featured on the show that his problem was he got sober and saw what type of person Dorit was, right? Which is not a good person. And now Dorit is here on the reunion. Everyone was saying, hey, like, why don't we talk about PK being sober, making those steps? She says, well, actually, and I'm not going to go too deep into it. And so she just like makes this like big pause, obviously wanting people to assume that he had fallen off the wagon. And I wonder how PK is going to react to that. I don't think he's aware of it yet, or maybe he's prepping his response, but I am really looking forward to seeing how he responds to that, because Dorit said that he fell off the wagon. She had a conversation with him in which it was very obvious that he was not sober. I hope that's not the case, of course, but I don't think that he is going to appreciate the fact that she put that out there on television about him. And I think that might ignite a war. I think he might actually full blown march his behind over to the courtroom and then handle it from there. Yikes. But here's the thing. They've been advising Dorit about this divorce all season. Like, oh, make sure you get half of zero is still zero. In fact, Dorit should be filing to protect herself from this man's debts before the 10-year mark. Hey, Cammie. Garcelle really needs to stop asking about Morgan, and Bose needs to not trust Dorit 100%. I agree. I think that Garcelle made some miscalculations and missteps this season that led to her having to take a break from it all. One thing about Kyle is she does not want to talk about that situation with Morgan. And I can't stand the way she goes, Morgan didn't sign up for the shit. She was there last season, boo. She was there. And I wouldn't compare it to Garcelle's son. Garcelle's underage child was okay with appearing on the show with you middle-aged women until Erica, the drunk, or when she was drunk, insulted him. And then Kyle, your husband, when you found out that this lady of 50-something years old was chastising and swearing at a child, at a minor, when he found that out, he said it was good and he deserved it. And he wasn't even there. And the child did nothing wrong. And then online, Beverly Hills fans or Housewives fans started harassing him with bots and racist attacks. That is the reason why Garcelle's son is no longer on the show. That is completely different from you bringing on your girlfriend for a season and her having all these scenes with you filming a music video with her where you're queer baiting with her. Are we going to kiss? Or are we not going to kiss? you tattooing her and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden she's not here. I think it was important for Garcelle to ask the question, for continuity's sake, right? For the audience, because for us as the audience, it's weird that this person is here, and then the next minute we got to pretend that we never saw this person. She signed the release forms. So I didn't like her trying to make that equivalence there, because it was a false equivalence. Yeah. And Sutton, she kind of flopped in part 1 as well. Like, I think she could have done a lot more. She was very hyped when she was doing her confessionals, calling Dorit poor Reeds because of the caviar that she buys. It's only $100 caviar, not $500 caviar like Sutton's. She said she was never going to back down from those comments. But when it was time to face Dorit, or should I say poor Reed, head on at the reunion, she was timid. I was disappointed in her. I was, but I am not surprised. Sutton, she really wants to be liked by these people at the end of the day, and that is more important to her than being right. And we're going to see how well that works out for her moving forward. Now, you guys, let's get into our last story of the day. Sorry, I think I might have to do a little bit of a pause, but we'll see. I might have been drinking too much water, y'all. I want to talk about Caitlyn and Tyler's podcast. As you guys are aware, Caitlyn and Tyler recently launched a podcast under Kail Lowry's podcasting company, right? It's called Kate and Ty Break It Down. And so they've been talking about adoption, the issues they're having with their birth daughter, Carly's adoptive parents and whatnot. And I found it to be a very interesting episode. So if you guys tuned into the most recent episode of Teen Mom Next Chapter, you saw some excerpts from this episode. It was the one where they were speaking with Jordy Cray, who had a lot of kind of like harsh things to say about their adoption and their complaints about their adoption on TikTok. And so they wanted to bring him on as a hater, to kind of just have a discussion, open up the floor to show that they're not afraid of being criticized. And so I thought it was a very interesting episode. I like Jordy and I like, Caitlyn and Tyler, and I was interested to see what they had to say. So there were some moments that were rather enlightening in this podcast episode. And then there were some moments where I was like, hey, wait a minute. I read you guys' books for my channel members. And what you're saying right now is not what adding up with what you said in your book. So, for example, they were talking about how they felt as though Brandon and Teresa want to be the only ones who are able to to profit from Carly, especially financially. And I felt like, listen, that is very harsh to put out there, right? But okay, whatever floats your boat. Every time you see the back of Carly's head on the show, Brandon and Teresa were paid very handsomely for that. And the last time that Caitlyn and Tyler saw Carly was 2 years ago, and they posted photos of only the back of Carly's head as per Brandon and Teresa's wishes. But they say that Brandon and Teresa were upset about that because in posting those exclusive photos, MTV then could just take those photos from their social media and not compensate Brandon and Teresa for the use of the back of their daughter's head. And so at first, when you hear this, you go, oh, okay, like little sketchy, right? But then Caitlyn and Tyler clarify this by saying that they don't take the money and put it aside for Carly. This is the money that they use for like their hotels and flights whenever they have to visit Caitlyn and Tyler. And so I have to ask you guys as the audience how you feel about that, because at first listen, you go, oh, that's weird that the money's not going in the daughter's pockets, blah, blah. But then when you think, oh, I had no idea that they were paying for this out of pocket. I thought MTV was paying for them to fly and have the hotel and stuff. So now hearing that Brandon and Teresa are paying for this out of pocket and they just wanted that money to be able to offset those costs, to me, it makes sense. It makes sense to me, right? But anyway, to them, they were rather upset about it, which, I guess I can understand why they're upset about it. But I also understand why Brandon and Teresa want to have some of that money so that they could put, save some of their own money for these visits. So they say that Carly has also been asking a lot of questions about her birth family. And they think that Brandon and Teresa are getting scared and insecure that as Carly ages, she's going to want everything to do with Caitlyn and Tyler and nothing to do with Brandon and Teresa, which again, I find to be rather harsh. I do understand the idea that they could be insecure, that their daughter is going to be more and more curious about her birth family, especially her birth parents, and that it might impact their relationship with her moving forward. But I think so long as they're treating her well, I don't see Carly wanting to cut ties with like her parents, the people who raised her and whatnot. I think that is a very, very big assertion to put out there. So I've listened to only about 75% of the episode. I'm not 100% of the way through. So if there are other like major nuggets that pop out, I definitely will be recapping them in tomorrow's morning report. However, I will say that I find it rather odd that Caitlyn and Tyler are accusing Brandon and Teresa of changing and lying about everything that they wanted in order to get a baby from them. So they said that Brandon and Teresa lied about wanting an open adoption just to get Carly from them. However, this is the part that, shout out to my channel members. I got quite a lot of you in the chat today. You guys could, if you watched that video that I put up for you guys a couple of days ago, you guys can confirm this in the chat or in the comment section if you're part of the Playback Posse. But in the latest chapter of their book, I think it's chapter 6 or 7, Caitlyn and Tyler said that they're the ones who did not want an open adoption until they actually held Carly. They thought that it would be too scary for them, in that they would be seeing this daughter and having all of this trauma constantly. And they felt like if they had made a clean break, it would be easier for them to digest the adoption. And so in this chapter of the book, the chapter where they talk about giving birth to Carly, they say that they asked Dawn for the papers because Dawn told them up until the very last second, they can change whatever they need to change about the adoption agreement. And after Caitlyn gave birth and they spent a couple of days with Carly in the hospital, they asked Dawn to change from a closed adoption to an open adoption. Dawn got them that pencil. They put it to the paper and they said, we're crossing this out and we are going open. So based off of their own words from their book, it seems as though Brandon and Teresa were open about the fact that they wanted a closed adoption. And even though Kate and Ty changed it at the last minute, they decided to be accommodating nonetheless. So at this point, I'm like, okay, it feels like you guys are misremembering at best and misleading your audience at worst. I would like to hope that they are just misremembering here. But again, it's in their book. I'm currently reading it for my channel members. And so that's why this is still fresh on my mind. Now, I think there was something else here that I wanted to mention. Give me 1 second. So, oh yes, it was about Carly's raising. So they're talking about how whether or not Carly is aware of their social media posts about her, like, do they know how big and famous they are and whatnot? And so they said that they don't really think that Carly has access to their podcast or anything like that because she goes to a very conservative Christian school. And so when they said that, it actually had me wondering how they feel about that now as adults. Because back then when they were younger, they thought, okay, if you're from this religion, if you're from this 2-parent house with a stay-at-home parent, with a big house, it means that everything is sunshine and daisies, right? But when you look at Caitlyn and Tyler's politics today, like they're very liberal, right? They're very much like pro LGBTQIA plus. They're very, pro Black, they're very pro people of color. They're very open and accepting of all people, right? And so when they're talking about Carly being raised in a very, very kind of closed off conservative Christian school, it makes me wonder like how they feel about that now, like I think there's a huge culture clash in general between them and Brandon and Teresa. And I think it's going to be interesting seeing how they interact with Carly moving forward, if Carly reaches out to them as an adult, because she's going to be the complete opposite of them as well, right? Because she's being raised in that sort of a way. And I'm actually really, really, really fascinated about that because, you think one way, you have these certain things in your head when you're younger, but as you get older and you start to learn more about different religions and cultures and whatnot, you kind of see that, wait a minute, what I thought about these things back then is not what I think about them today. And so I'm interested to see how that is going to impact them moving forward. Very, very interesting stuff, you guys. So now I'm going to take a look at some of the comments that y'all left. Sorry, you guys, I kept y'all waiting a little bit because I wanted to get through it before I forgot, okay? So real quick, Bunny had a comment about the RHOBH story we just covered, and I agreed, right? She kept on saying, be honest, to out Denise. But when it comes to her, and Denise's side piece was never on the show, but Kyle's was. She's a hypocrite. I don't like Kail, and I used to love her. Hey, Paula. Paula says, I think it's their kid and they should be the only ones to profit. right? Fair enough. Ramster says, I don't understand why Tyler and Kate can't just wait it out, concentrate on their two daughters and wait for Carly is 18. Exactly. At this point, it's only 2 years away. Why burn bridges like this? Because even if Carly wants to be around you guys as an adult, you've made it very uncomfortable in general. So let's say Carly's getting married. How awkward is it going to be for you guys to be around Brendan and Teresa? You know, maybe Carly wants to host her first Christmas or Thanksgiving when she moves out and she wants, you know, her birth parents and her biological parents there. You guys have made this kind of, very uncomfortable atmosphere for all of that. With only 2 years left to go, I think that, they should kind of chill out a little bit. Although they have a right to share their opinions and whatnot, I think that it's going to have very, very catastrophic implications. Hey, Rasan says Kate and Ty make money from their kids appearing on the show. Brendan and Teresa should be equally compensated whenever Carly appears. Exactly, right? And for them to call it exploiting, meanwhile, they've got their children on the show, like actually full-blown working scenes and whatnot, which is different from photos of the back of Carly's head. It's interesting. B Chocolate says Brendan and Teresa are not worried about any little money they get from pictures of Carly. They would be successful with or without MTV money. The same cannot be said about Kate and Ty. It's true, right? Kate and Ty specifically chose them because they were successful. They had this big, beautiful home. Teresa was already a stay-at-home wife. So on that income, they had that big home already. Ramster says Brandon and Teresa learned about Kate and Ty through TV and changed their minds. Maybe that's it too, right? Because the Kate and Ty of today are different from the Kate and Ty of 15 years ago. Paula says, yes, Kate also said this in an interview she did earlier. So they keep changing the story. So that is in regards to the open-close adoption. In their book, they said that they wanted a closed adoption and they did not change it to open until the very last second. So now in this interview where they say that Brandon and Teresa lied, that they wanted an open adoption from the very beginning just to, get a baby out of them, it's not fair. It's not a fair character and it's not an accurate characterization. Razan says, I don't think it's about being accommodating. Kate and Ty could have changed their mind early. Entirely about the adoption in the hospital. It was in Brendan and Teresa's best interest to be compliant. That's true too. And they had already gone through that. And this is something else that they talked about in the book, right? And that's the last chapter that I read for you guys. Brendan and Teresa already had it where they went to the hospital. They thought they were going to be coming home with a baby, but the woman who gave birth to what would have been their child, she decided to change her mind at the last minute. And this is something that Tyler's sister did as well. So when she was pregnant at like 19 years old, she gave birth. It was all set up. The family came to the hospital ready to take the child home, but then she changed her mind at the last minute. I don't think Kate and Ty understand that everything about the way they live their lives is embarrassing to Carly. She was not raised in that chaos, unlikely doesn't want anything to do with that. And that is just such a sad, harsh thing, right? To think, because again, she's being raised completely different from the way that Kate and Tyler are raised. Like she's being raised like very kind of strictly religious and whatnot. And so what would Carly think about things like the OnlyFans, right? What would Carly think about, just other things that they've said and done, like the drugs and whatnot too, right? Ronnie, man, I am so late. Oh, Ronnie, nice to see you. Sorry you missed out on the majority of today's episode, but I'm excited to see you in the playback in the comments. BR says it might be harsh, but Kate and Tyler have too much free time on their hands to, so they're fixated on Carly as their main only storyline. And I can agree with that too, right? I definitely agree with that as well. I think, although they do film for the show, which is a job in and of itself, I think it would behoove them to have other things as well to keep themselves busy. I know for a while there that Kate was studying microblading and whatnot, but I don't know if she still does that as a job or anything like that. But I think you're right. And I know that Tyler was really into renovations and whatnot, but I don't know if he's been keeping up with that. And I know he's into the gym, working out and stuff, but they need to be busy, maybe even getting more involved in their children's schools and whatnot. I don't know. Paula asks, will she even want anything to do with Kate and Ty based on their beliefs? Carly could outright reject them even without their comments entirely. I think that that's true, right? It seems like she's being raised very red and Kate and Tyler are very blue. And today's atmosphere between red and blue is very tense, right? Teresa says, I wonder if there's distance between them. The distance is the politics. Maybe, right? Kate and Ty have been advocating for things that it feels like Brandon and Teresa are not necessarily fans of based off of what we're hearing about them. Could that be it? Ramster says, look at their history since Teen Mom, Butch and April, the drunk/crack grandparents, the crack aunt, and Ty and Kate and their habits and addictions, weed, horses, OnlyFans, rants on social media, right? It just does not feel like a match at this point, which is something I'm really curious about. I might ask them to talk a little bit about this, because you hear about transracial adoptions, for example, right? And we had one of our lovely co-reporters talking to us about this on Monday's episode, about how she's Mexican, but she was adopted by a white family in the U.S., and the white family in the U.S. didn't really encourage her to seek out her culture or anything like that, or to learn much about her culture. In fact, they made some sort of negative remarks about her culture and whatnot. And so I'm wondering, okay, that's one thing, but in a situation where you guys are the same race and you adopt them, and at first you guys vibe, but then culturally, religiously, politically, you become complete and utter opposites. How does that work? Very interesting stuff, right? Misha, Brandon and Teresa pay taxes. Do Kate and Ty, according to the news, hence MTV OnlyFans? Damn. Alice says, I'm adopted. I had a close top. And I've had some interactions with family members, however, not my biological teen parents. Wow, thank you for sharing, Allie. Have you found that you want to be in contact with your parents? Well, sorry, with your birth parents, or is that like a door that you would prefer to remain closed? Right? Wow. This is very interesting. The stuff that we're learning from you guys here in the co-reporting community. Chandler says we need to show to the Teen Mom kids when they turn 18. And I do think that that is the direction that they're heading in. We've already got the Teen Mom kids filming their own individual scenes with their friends and whatnot. So don't be surprised if some sort of spinoff comes out about them. And so, you know, the thing that we've always been saying here is it kind of feels as though they're waiting to see if there's going to be a teen pregnancy in the crowd. But even without that, I do think that that is something that they would be interested in following. Like, would this be the first ever reality show where you follow the people from teenagehood to their 80s, 90s, and then their children for their whole lives? And those, like, could this be the first ever multi-generational show? It could be. That would be interesting. That would be compelling. That would be iconic. Liv says, I don't think the adoption agency did the best job with their handling of this one. I think the last minute changing their mind should have thrown up a red flag. I agree. It's very, very unfortunate what went down here. It is. I think all of these people wanted the best and went in with pure intentions, but unfortunately, it didn't work out the way it should have. Palace says Kate and Ty are also profiting off of Carly, right? Every week. Caroline, we missed you today. We missed you. Thanks for joining the Playback Posse. Right? Misha, you were so shady. Razan says, I think their fixation comes from deep unhealed wounds from the trauma of their upbringing and the adoption, right? And I think they have a lot of resentment towards their parents, as they should, because the other people on the show were able to raise their children as teen parents, you know, thanks to some of the support of their parents, and having, or even if they didn't have support from the parents, at least having a stable place to go. You know, it's kind of like, for example, Macy, Caitlyn, they came from upwardly mobile parents as well. And so they had this certain level of support to raise their children as teenagers. Kail did not. However, she had children with the person who did. So she was able to lean on that. But neither Tyler nor Caitlyn's parents were in the position to help them out. And so I think that there is a certain level of resentment that comes with that. And so Allie is sharing some more details about her adoption story. So silence is an answer for me. My biological mother signed away rights when I was 3 days old. However, my biological father waited until I was 2. I've had no contact with them. So sorry to hear that, Allie. I hope that you feel okay and you have the closure that you need in that situation, and that you were raised in a home full of love nonetheless. B Chocolate says the tell-alls from Jay, Sophia, and Leah are going to be epic. I agree. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Allie. I'm sorry about that. Oh, you guys, we have come to the end of another episode of the Morning Report. Per usual, thank y'all so much for joining me. We go live every single weekday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means that tomorrow we'll be back with more of the day's hottest stories. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, to give the stream a thumbs up so that YouTube knows you enjoy my content. And I'll catch you guys again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank y'all for the tips about the migraine. I'm going to take them, close all lights, close all the windows, and just drink a lot of water and heal so I can be better for you guys tomorrow, okay? Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye.